Welcome back to the GSMC Chip Shot Football Podcast to talk about the free agency market and how it's died down a little bit. I'm going to get into my best fits for some of the best free agent market players left over. But before I do that, one last time on this episode, I want to remind all you guys, if you have any questions, comments, or want to say anything just in regards to the segment, please use the tip and donations link at gsmcpodcast.net with any of your questions. It ensures that I'm able to see them. They pop up on the right-hand side in my chat box, and we could react to something, have a conversation if you guys have any questions. I love that. I think it makes it more fun. And again, if you can't see it on the screen and you're just listening to this episode, the tip and donations link is gsmcpodcast.net. We always appreciate it. It's a big help for the show anytime you guys are able to use that link with any of your questions. Going back now to the topic at hand, the best free agents left on the market. There's tons of free agents, obviously. There's too many to count and really keep track of. A lot of good players left out there, but I've rounded up the 7 to 6 best players I think that are still out there, and I would probably assume are going to be the next ones off the market, in my opinion. So starting with one of the biggest ones, Tyler Boyd, the wide receiver formerly of the Cincinnati Bengals. He could end up back there, but it doesn't look like it because of how they're dealing with T. Higgins, trying to get a deal worked out with him potentially. And quite frankly, they might not have enough money to pay Tyler Boyd. He is getting now to the 30-year-old mark, so do they want him back? That's another debate. But it doesn't look like he'll come back. And in my opinion, the biggest or the best fit for him would be just to stay in the AFC North with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're the team I've seen him linked mostly with. There's interest from the Chiefs as well as the New York Jets. But they've just signed also Marquise Brown in respect to the Chiefs and Mike Williams in respect to the New York Jets. So they've paid those guys enough already. With the Jets, I could see the Jets because they just got Mike Williams and they have Garrett Wilson. You could add something there, but you already have Allen Lazard kind of filling out that slot receiver role for the Jets that Tyler Boyd is very good at. So do they really need him? And then for the Chiefs, they have Rashee Rice. They brought in Marquise Brown. Already enough targets go to Travis Kelce. How would he fit into that offense? Is there enough of the ball to share among those guys, plus the touches that Isaiah Pacheco gets? Quite frankly, I think they're better throwing the ball less and trying to play through him. But that's just my opinion. I think it makes the most sense for the Steelers because Tyler Boyd knows the division. He's from the Pittsburgh area. He's a big fan of Mike Tomlin. Who's not a fan of Mike Tomlin? So that's not really saying too much. But other than that, there's not too much interest elsewhere. And I think the longer this just plays out, I think the more likely it is that he'll just go with what's familiar to him and maybe take less money. I'm sure the Steelers would love that. But to me, he fits best there. And it doesn't stop the Steelers from finding another wide receiver or another weapon, potentially through the draft, to bolster that wide receiver room as well. Moving on to my next free agent target, player still available, Stefon Gilmore. Last season played with the Dallas Cowboys until he got hurt, unfortunately for him. And now he is on the older side as well. So I'm sure one of his biggest priorities is playing for a team that gives him the best chance of winning. And in saying that, I first wanted to say the Cardinals because they would definitely need a player, a talent like Stefon Gilmore. But thinking it more over, I think the Lions made a lot more sense after not only they signed Carlton Davis, so they already knew that this was a need. They addressed it a little bit with Carlton Davis, but you can't have too many corners on your team, basically. So Carlton Davis is a experienced veteran. I think bringing in another guy like Stefon Gilmore, keeping the talent level up to a standard, at least for a year or two, you're going all in on this team, and I think that would work out best because it gives him the best chance of a Super Bowl just because he's older. And they just released their cornerback 1, cornerback 2, however you wanted to see it. Cameron Sutton, because of his involvement potentially, allegedly, in a domestic violence case, I think down in Florida. So the Lions released him a few days ago. And with all that going on, they lost a defensive back. So why not go out and get one of the best ones left on the market? I think it makes a lot of sense. It would make their team better because, in my opinion, you're increasing the skill there at that position. And I would love to see that move for the Lions heading into further into this offseason. Moving into another secondary guy, Justin Simmons, arguably the best safety left on this market and probably will be the most expensive guy on there because of his contract that he is on right now. I think he's on an annual salary of $14 or $11 million between that range. So he will come at a cost a little bit more, but you won't see the deals that Xavier McKinney will get because that's his first big deal. I don't expect his contract to stay at around 14 to 11. But he will be more expensive than a Deshaun Elliott that went to the Steelers, as well as how else the safety market is looking. And a team that I think would fit him the best could be either the Colts or the Titans. I would probably say more the Colts just because of the way that they're trending. Honestly, they're both trending up, but with the Titans, I think there's more unfamiliar pieces. You don't really know what you're going to get out of Will Levis. You got Calvin Ridley and DeAndre Hopkins there, which is going to help. But I think with the Colts, you have a bit more security there in the organization. The team, their defense is a bit more reliable for me. And on top of that, with the Colts, they were able to keep Kenny Moore. But unfortunately, I think, just in my opinion, I think they will lose Julian Blackmon, their other talented secondary player. He's taken some visits recently, and I just don't see the Colts bringing him back. And I think Justin Simmons would be the perfect replacement to come in and play right away, have that experience, really lead that young secondary. I think would do them wonders. So Justin Simmons to the Colts, pencil that in. I love that move. I think that one's really likely to happen, which transitions me now into talking now about Julian Blackmon, another one of those talented safeties on the market right now. He's taken visits with the Bills and the 49ers, which makes sense because the Bills just released Jordan Poyer, so there's a big need there. And the 49ers as well. They've released Tashawn Gibson, one of their safeties. So he could fit into either one of those teams. But the team I went with was the 49ers because Julian Blackmon is still pretty young. I think he's 26 or 25, coming off of his rookie deal. But he has been forced to deal with injuries that have held him back a little bit and really prevented him from showing his full potential because he goes 100% when he's out there. But a lot of times it gets him in injury problems and he has to deal with that. So because he's not really shown too much of it or shown a lot to give him this massive contract like a Darnell Savage or an Xavier McKinney got, I think I could see him going more to the 49ers on a cheaper deal, 2 to 3 years maybe 1 to 2, proving himself more, playing really well on a defense that doesn't really need too much. And if he plays well and the defense looks great, he's a big part of that. I think later either the 49ers will give him a big contract or it'll work out best for him and another team will just end up giving him another big contract if he stays healthy, which is the biggest thing. But the 49ers makes the most sense to me. That's the most recent team he visited with. So if no more reports come out, I'm just going to assume he's going to go there. A lot of teams would want to join that team. So it makes the most sense. A surprising one, maybe for a few people, now could be J.K. Dobbins. A lot of people don't think about him when they mention all the running backs on the market. Nobody really brought up Dobbins, but he's only 25 years old. And the scariest thing, right, is the injuries. He's only played in 9 games since the start of 2021. But you can't really deny when he is out there, in those 9 games, he does look great. He looks explosive. He gets in and out of his cuts well. He reads the running lanes well as well. He can catch out of the backfield. He had great success at Ohio State. Um, and I just think he is very talented. I've seen him a lot being a Steelers fan and seeing him be part of the Ravens and how he complemented Lamar and their offense. I think he has a lot of potential still there. It's very unlucky that he's had to deal with the knee injuries and stuff like that. But I think he's still so young that somebody should want to sign him because of how well he plays when he is healthy. And in that mindset, going down that lane, I think pairing him up with somebody similar to him dealing with injuries shouldn't be a bell cow kind of bring back. I think the best situation for him could be the Vikings. If he went to the Vikings and he stayed a little bit more healthy than he has been, pairing him up with Aaron Jones, I think would end up great for this offense because then not only do you spot Aaron Jones when he needs it, you spot J.K. Dobbins when he needs a rest. The talent level doesn't really drop off with either of those backs. They still have a very good offensive line. Justin Jefferson is obviously still there. I was really impressed with Jordan Addison. TJ Hawkinson is a great tight end. Not only do they complement their offense well, but it strengthens the idea of them drafting a quarterback. And if you draft a rookie quarterback to come into that situation with all those weapons, two great running backs, two great receivers, and an awesome tight end, great offensive line, I don't think you could argue at that point there's no other better place for a rookie quarterback to go than the Minnesota Vikings. And that whole script, their whole idea of, oh my God, we lost Kirk Cousins, we're doomed, it flips on its head because you complemented the rest of the offense. And if this rookie quarterback turns out to be who you wanted it to be, who you think can lead you into success, it all works out perfectly if they sign J.K. Dobbins and complement their offense that way. And it'll do great for Dobbins as well. Like I mentioned, they have a great O-line. And I don't think he should be getting 20 to 15 carries a game. It hasn't worked out for him as well. So I think that would be the most likely fit for him. And just to round it out, Xavier Howard, I've mentioned him before on YouTube Shorts or in just briefly in segments. He makes the most sense to me to go to the Houston Texans. He is from Texas. He was released by the Dolphins, and the Texans need a defensive back now because they released Steven Nelson. And Xavier Howard is younger than Steven Nelson. In my opinion, he's better. He gives you more. He's dealt with injuries, but it's not been too crazy where he's missed a ton of games every season that he's been in the league. The seasons that he has been healthy, I think there's no question that there's only really 3 to 4 guys better than him. And for him to join that young, exciting Texans team overall with the additions of Danielle Hunter, Joe Mixon, I think it would work out best for the Houston Texans, solidify their defense because DeMeco Ryans is that defensive sort of coach, wants a good defense. Adding him to that squad would be very great for them, exciting, and really push them into real contention in this AFC with how great CJ Stroud looked and how great Tank Dell looked, Nico Collins looked. I think it'll all work out perfect for them if they were to add this secondary hope for their defense. And that's it. Those are the biggest guys I think left on the market. I would love to know if you guys agree with those team fits that I laid out there. I think those make the most sense to me, and I would love to see all those guys not only go to those teams, but I think those are the places where they'll likely find the most success heading into next season. But in saying that, I will end that segment there, and I will transition into the last break before I talk about Caleb Williams' Pro Day and everything I took away from his performance, what people were saying afterwards, which teams met with him before and after his Pro Day. All of that, all those details coming up right here on the GSMC Chip Shot Football Podcast.